What's going on, everyone? Meteorologist Jonathan Kegges with you. We are starting to see the beginning of this multi-day high-impact snowstorm that will likely become a blizzard for some of us and likely dump a lot of snow for a select few. I don't think snow totals as a whole across the country is going to be the calling card of this system. It's going to be the wind accompanying that snow. And then, of course, the brutal cold that has been well forecast really for the last week or 10 days. So in this video, we are going to talk about how much snow is going to be possible across parts of the country, and who has the best chance to see those blizzard conditions. Again, this is going to impact travel significantly as we really start through your Wednesday afternoon and then really ramping up Thursday into Friday. And then really right on through Christmas, the cold part of this is going to take over. And really, this has already begun in parts of the northern plains, Intermountain West. I'm going to show you where the chill has already started to invade parts of the country coming up in a couple of minutes. We are going to start with the broad view here and where we are seeing this red color, parts of southern and western Minnesota through Marshall. That's where we have a blizzard warning. In the blue, we have a winter storm watch. In the purple, we have a winter weather advisory. And then in the pink color here from Duluth, extending through western parts of Wisconsin, through Iowa, into most of Missouri, we are looking at a winter storm warning. This blue color here represents, again, another winter storm watch as we are towards the back end of the start time for that winter storm watch to be issued from the National Weather Service. Again, that's normally coming out into that 72-hour ballpark in terms of where the impacts are going to start. We're going to talk about the snow portion of this first. Again, this is a three-part storm: the snow, the wind, and then the bitterly cold temperatures that are going to be blasting through most of the country. So here we go. We're going to start kind of zoomed in here, and then I'm going to show you a little bit later a countrywide focus here. So if you are traveling, you get kind of that countrywide view. All right, so here is piece one of the storm, and this is going to be a little sneaky, impactful portion if you have to travel up and down Interstate 81 through the Blue Ridge Mountains on Thursday. You see here some of the blue and pink showing up along I-81. Again, we have a cold air damming event. That means we have high pressure situated out over New England or over the southeast part of Canada, kind of funneling some of the colder air down and trapping it at the base of the mountain. So again, if you're traveling 81 tomorrow, that's where we're going to have a sneaky, impactful freezing rain and some light snow event. That is kind of piece one, though, of this bigger system that is going to kind of explode as we move into the second part of Thursday and really into Friday. So you see, again, we're talking about this, that I-95 is going to miss out on any kind of white Christmas potential. It's all going to be just a very heavy rain, although we are going to watch for the potential for some flooding in New England with how heavy that rain is going to be. And then you see this kind of take over here as we move into early Friday morning, the potential for some very heavy snow through parts of Ohio after it starts as rain, through Indiana, through parts of northeast Chicago, and then certainly Michigan. I think the extreme northern part of Indiana into Michigan, that's going to be where the kind of jackpot snowfall totals are going to be of this. The snow is not going to be, again, the calling card for everybody. It's going to be the wind, and that's really going to be the case for Ohio as we're talking about the potential for blizzard conditions, even with not a lot of snow. Now, the system itself kind of pulls its way up into Canada, so places like Ottawa and Toronto are starting to get in on the snow. But with the wind coming out of the west, we continue to still see snow enhanced by the lakes. We have lake effect snow all up and down western Michigan. And then to the southeast also of Lake Erie. So Erie, we're still getting pounded with some snow. Also into Buffalo, and then also into places like Watertown, New York again, places that were crushed with that lake effect snow event just last month. All right, so here's kind of a wide look here at what we could see in terms of the snow. And I think a general 2 to 4 inches of snow is going to be possible from about Topeka, Kansas, into western Missouri, into Kansas City. Same deal for us into Joplin. I think northern Arkansas, we get in on the snow. Memphis, I think we see a few flakes, but not really looking at anything amounting to much. Could have a dusting on some of the grassy surfaces. Nashville, we could get up to an inch, maybe a little bit more. Same for us in Lexington, about 1 to 3 inches of snow. I think Indianapolis, by and large, I think we'll see a widespread 2 to 4 inches with isolated higher amounts. South Bend, we're starting to get into more of those jackpot totals, more of like that 8 to 16 inch range, because we are going to be helped out with that lake enhanced snow on the back end of that system. Certainly the winner, if you like the snow, is going to be Western Michigan. You see it there, more than a foot. The UP of Michigan, forget about that. We're talking about pushing 2 feet of snow. And then as we move east, the lake going to help us out in Watertown and Buffalo, potentially getting to that foot to 2 foot mark as well. And then Cleveland, more like that 4 to 8 inches right along the lake. That would extend also into Erie, with the potential to get even more moving into Christmas Day. So again, especially out in the plains here, we're not talking about a ton of snow, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches, but it's going to blow around. So some places you might see bare grass, other places you might have drifts that are maybe a foot tall because of how strong the winds are going to be. And we're going to get into the wind in just a second. That's going to be part 3 of this. Part 2 is going to be the cold. And while there's not a ton of moisture with this particular round of snow, the snow ratios are going to be really high. It's typically a 10 inches of snow or 1 inch of rain equals 10 inches of snow. It's going to be higher than that. We're talking about those ratios being higher because the colder it is, the less moisture you need to get that efficient snow producing snowfall. So you see this kind of bright blue color here. That's where we have wind chill warnings in play. Through Montana, through northern Idaho, into the eastern side of Washington off the Cascades. Where you have this kind of that greener color, that's where wind chill watches are in play for the potential for those wind chill warnings. Again, those dangerously cold wind chills to invade parts of the south as well. And then that kind of lighter blue color, that's where we have wind chill advisories. No doubt this is for, again, the start of the event. Those will likely be upgraded to wind chill warnings over the next couple of days. It is going to be cold everywhere. Was talking about this in our last video about our air mass was charging up over Siberia. It has now since dislodged. Now, these are the temperatures as of 10 o'clock in the morning on December 21st. So these are actual temperatures. This is not a forecast. This is not the wind chill. It is 58 degrees below zero in parts of the Yukon Territory. It's 37 below now, again, without the wind in Fairbanks. And we're talking a widespread 40 to 50 degrees below zero in parts of British Columbia. This is what is going to start sneaking into the northern tier of the country already this morning, and then really starting to solidify itself in the lower 48 as we move into Thursday. So there's Wednesday morning, and you see this big batch of purple. Now, again, I know a lot of people say this purple looks scary. That's how the color table is. And the darker that color is, the colder the air mass is. So there we go. These are the actual air temperatures now. And again, I think Miles City, that's going to even be colder than that on Thursday morning. Look at the air mass, the Arctic air mass expand. 35 below in Miles City. We have our strong Arctic cold front pushing into Roanoke, Virginia, into Atlanta by Friday morning. Note, for a very short time, Central Florida, Orlando, we're waking up to a nice, comfortable 65 degrees on Friday morning. Watch what happens. We will not escape this blast of Arctic air. We're going to wake up into the 20s and 30s in Central Florida. Really, other than the Caribbean, or Hawaii, the only place to escape this blast of Arctic air in the lower 48 is going to be in the extreme desert Southwest and Southern California. Everybody else is getting involved on this big Arctic chill. And again, I just wanted to show you here the crazy nature of this cold. This color table here for the wind chill, the feels like temperature, how it feels on your skin. And again, this is an apparent temperature, so it only affects living things, your pets. Make sure you're bringing the pets in. Again, make sure you're caring for your neighbors, things like that. Because if the wind knocks out power, this is some brutally cold stuff. Again, dangerously cold. And I know that we are a hardy folk in the northern plains in the upper Midwest. Nonetheless, feels like temperatures of 45 below in Rapid City, where you see the kind of the earth showing through here, the actual terrain. The color table here is set for 50 degrees below zero. So that means that we are maxing out the color table east of the Rockies here. So some places in the panhandle of Nebraska, into South Dakota, into Wyoming, into Montana could be colder than 50 or 55 degrees below zero when you factor in the wind. So this is, again, no joke cold. And again, just like the actual air temperatures, again, this blast of cold pushes across the entirety of the United States with the exception of the desert Southwest. The third component, and potentially other than the bitterly cold, and again, that is frostbite in less than 5 minutes in the upper Midwest and the northern plains. This is no joke. But it's going to be the wind. Again, there's not a ton of snow with this system, except if you're watching from Indiana, maybe northern Illinois, certainly Michigan, maybe extreme northern Ohio, and then across the Great Lakes of Erie and Ontario. There's not a ton of snow with this. It's going to be the blowing snow, the blizzard conditions. Watch the wind really ramp up. This is midnight on Friday. You see wind gusts pushing 40 miles an hour, and then they intensify further as that storm I showed you, again, really starts to intensify as it moves up towards the Great Lakes. As we move into Saturday morning at 10, the strongest winds move into western Pennsylvania, into Erie, Pennsylvania. And, I mean, we could see wind gusts on the order of 50 to 60 miles an hour as well right along the lake. Wanted to kind of put this all together. I know there's a lot of people traveling. There's likely going to be significant travel delays, especially as we move into Thursday and Friday. But again, the first piece of this system is kind of blasting down in from southern Canada into the east of the Rockies. Gets underway. It's really underway as we speak, but certainly this is where it is at 6 o'clock on Wednesday, December 21st. And you see some snow from the Twin Cities extending all the way back to Boise, getting into Denver, Wyoming, the Dakotas. We have that light to moderate snow. The darker the blue, the more intense, relatively speaking, that snowfall is. Now, as of Thursday morning, that snow starts to push east. We're still snowing in Minnesota, Wisconsin, into Iowa, and then down into Wichita. Look at the chill. We're in the single digits. And this is why, again, this is likely going to be an efficient snowfall, that powder, because the air is so cold in this area. So it does not take as much moisture to get a couple of inches of snow as we would typically see in parts of the Deep South. Here we go with our little sneaky, impactful system riding up the I-81 area. Here we go. There's 3 o'clock, December 22nd. That snow is starting to push into Chicago. All right. 9 o'clock on Thursday, this is when we really start to see the main event of this system start to spiral up. The center of low pressure is right about here. We have that heavy snow now pushing into central Pennsylvania. It's snowing heavily in parts of West Virginia, down into the 81 corridor, into the mountains of North Carolina, even into the mountains of Georgia and South Carolina as well, and still snowing heavily as of December 23rd. Again, Festivus in Chicago. 4 o'clock later that afternoon, we still have some snow from western PA down into Indiana. Certainly Michigan. Look at that dark blue. It is snowing heavily for us there, and still wrapping up with some lake effect snow there on December 24th. If you're planning on traveling, again, the worst days to do so in terms of being impacted by delays at the airport going to be on Thursday and Friday. There may be a ripple effect into Saturday. Even as the worst part of the storm shuts down, we are still going to have some strong winds depending upon the way the certain the certain landing part, the runway. That's the word I'm trying to get out here. The runways are oriented. It could have those crosswinds. It could be some problems landing the planes at specific airports in the Northeast, even though we're going to miss out on the snow right along I-95 anyway. That could be problematic for landing. And again, God only knows the residual impacts that the airlines are going to take, especially in and around Chicago, in and around Indianapolis. That's where the core of this system. And then, of course, the Michigan airports are going to be significantly impacted as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It does help us out a lot and helps YouTube push this out to more people so that if you're traveling, it can find those people and kind of give them a heads up. Again, be on the lookout for that. Just a high-impact storm coming at the wrong time, as a lot of people are, of course, traveling. If you are one of those people traveling, please be safe. If you are leaving your plants outside. If you're in an area that's typically warm, like Florida or parts of the Deep South, want to think about bringing those in before you leave because those will not survive this air. Certainly, if you have pets, bring those inside. If you're cold, they're cold. And you want to make sure you're checking on your neighbors, especially in the areas that are going to see the strongest wind gust. If power goes out, again, this is very dangerous cold. Again, no joke. It's not a hype situation. We don't do that here on this channel. But that is some serious cold coming through. Some places will see their coldest air in years. So again, please take it seriously. Please be kind to one another and check on your friends and make sure they have a warm place to be. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please post where you're watching from in the comments below. Have a good one.